Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at the 2024 presidential election map based off of the overall national popular vote, in which as of today, July 3rd, Donald Trump wins the popular vote for the first time for any Republican since like 2004 by 2.3% according to 538.com polling averages. As you can see, Biden can't even crack 40%. He's at 39.8 to Donald Trump's 42%. And believe it or not, Robert Kennedy Jr., the independent candidate third party, is polling at nearly 10% at 9.7 to be exact. So nearly 70% of Americans do not want a Trump and Biden rematch. So that's where RFK can actually thrive in numbers. And this might actually be shocking. Believe it or not, Kamala Harris has a higher chance of being the next president of the United States than Joe Biden, who is the current sitting president. Biden has a 14% chance of winning this election to Kamala Harris's 15%. And obviously Donald Trump is destroying everybody at a 62% chance, 2/3 of winning his second term. And the fact that you have a vice president polling higher than the incumbent president is actually kind of sad on Joe Biden's part. But before we get started with the map, make sure you guys are subscribed and click the bell so you don't miss out on my content. Also, we have memberships. If you are interested, you can find a link to that in the description section. Don't forget to press the like button, give this video a thumbs up. And as of today, Donald Trump has a 53% chance of winning the election according to 538.com, which is vastly different from what Polymarket has it at 62%. And Joe Biden wins 47 out of the 100 times, basically, of these simulations. So basically, there was 100 simulations, and Donald Trump wins 53 out of the 100 to Joe Biden's 47 out of those 100. There's a less than 1% chance of no electoral college winner. So basically, there's a less than 1% chance that RFK wins, or it's a 269 to 269 tie. Obviously, that's probably more than likely not going to happen. And there is high speculation that Joe Biden will not be seeking re-election. He will probably be replaced. Now, whether you believe that or not, I'm going to tell you right now that me personally, I don't think he will be replaced. He stated clearly that he wants to stay in the race. His family members want him to stay. At least some of them do. Jill wants him, but actually, I believe his sister actually does not want him to stay in the race. And some people of his own party are calling it elderly abuse. And literally, in terms of Congress, the Democratic Party is completely split 50-50 on the issue if they want Biden to stay in the race or not. And if they replace him, the likely candidates that we are seeing is probably Kamala Harris, because she is the only one that can spend the money or, get the fundraising, because the other candidates would be broke. Gavin Newsom can't fundraise anything. Gretchen Whitmer, also another candidate, she also can't raise money either. And in some states, it's actually too late to put up a candidate if Joe Biden ends up dropping out. So he probably won't. There is one scenario where I do think Biden can drop out, and if that is they wait all the way up until August or October and then drop him out on purpose, so that way we get closer to the election, the other candidate that they replace him with won't have the baggage, and Donald Trump won't have time to basically trash that other candidate. And basically, they would vote for that candidate over Trump just because he is not Donald Trump to quote-unquote save democracy, which could be part of the Democratic Party's plan to replace Joe Biden closer to the election instead of right now, because Trump won't have time to trash that other candidate, if that makes sense. Let me know if you agree with that take in the comment section down below. So that's enough talking. Let's begin with their overall map. So basically, if Donald Trump were to win the popular vote by 2.3%, if the polls on 538 were right, that would cause typically solid blue states, solid Biden states, to now drop down to the likely column and narrow up the margins because he is so unpopular. And keep in mind that even if Biden wins the popular vote by, let's just say 2%, for example, he still does not win re-election. That is not enough, because when Hillary Clinton won it by 2%, she ended up losing by more than 300 electoral votes. So the fact that Trump is winning the national popular vote by over 2% to show you that he can very well pass more than 320 electoral votes, possibly even 330, if this ends up, being realistic. So in my opinion, Washington State, Oregon, even a state like New York would become likely Biden states instead of solid blue ones, because Trump is winning the popular vote by just so much. It's obvious that the popular vote matters to Democrats more than it does to Republicans, because if a Republican loses the popular vote by just 1 to 2%, they're still going to win the electoral college vote, getting 270 electoral votes. Now, if the Republicans win the popular vote, then that's basically over. The election's over. The Democratic Party loses that election. And any election where the Republican candidate for president wins the popular vote, they more than likely win. Now, when it comes to the Democrats, it honestly depends. Even if the Democrat may win the popular vote, that does not mean they actually necessarily win the electoral college, if that makes sense. And there are tons of data and polls to back this up that both Washington State and Oregon can be close, and a lot of polls have been suggesting exactly that. And some polls, actually right-leaning internal ones, shows Donald Trump winning Washington State, which obviously is not going to happen, but still the fact that he does is not good news, considering that it's that close to begin with is just not good for Joe Biden. And as for New York, Biden won this by 23 points back in 2020. Now, the reason why it's going to drop down to a likely column is because Trump wins the popular vote by 2.3%, which is a decisive win for the former president. Trump rallied in this state, he rallied in the Bronx. So if that gets closer alone, then Trump might be able to get the state within single digits. And actually, a lot of polls have been suggesting exactly that. And even on the governorship, back in the 2022 midterms, Kathy Hochul only won by a margin of 6%. Lee Zeldin almost won this state. Keep in mind, this state votes overwhelmingly Democrat by over 20 percentage points, and it came within 6. In a year that we were supposed to see a red wave, but we didn't. And the fact that we did not see a red wave, and New York was still decided within 6%, goes to show you the shifts in the trends go in favor of the Republican Party in this state overall entirely. Donald Trump is expected to perform very well among minority groups, especially African American voters, and Hispanics as well. And that can open up the door for a state like Illinois to be within the likely margin of error in this election cycle. Maybe spikes in crime could piss off a lot of voters on top of the skyrocketing prices and inflation, or you're probably poorer now than where you were 4 years ago, issues like that. Joe Biden's age, he probably has significant cognitive decline, as we all saw in the debate. So I even think New Jersey could be lean, believe it or not, instead of likely for Biden or even safe for Biden. I think New Jersey would go to him by like 5 to 6 percentage points. And polls actually show that Trump has a chance of winning the state. And the fact that Trump has a chance, according to the polls, is bad for Joe Biden in New Jersey because he's not supposed to have it within like 5 percentage points. It's not supposed to be that close. But the fact that it is goes to show you that Biden might not win the election, and especially New Jersey being lean for Biden, that is not good news for him. And the fact that Trump is up with the national overall popular vote by 2.3% can cause likely Trump states to become solid red states because it will drive up the numbers for Donald Trump. Keep in mind, he's been convicted. Those raised his fundraising numbers, raised his poll numbers, and then Biden having severe cognitive decline on the debate stage also will increase Trump's numbers, and it has, because Trump was winning the popular vote before the debate by 1.4%. And now, after the debate, he's winning it by 2.3%. So yes, Trump is surging significantly. So therefore, Texas will no longer be likely. It is now safe for Donald Trump. He's going to pass 10% in that state. Iowa will overwhelmingly support Trump by double digits, as well as Ohio. It's now a lost cause for the Democratic Party. Even a state like Florida, Hispanics specifically, Cuban Americans are shifting towards the right vastly in fast numbers. Miami-Dade County, for example, flipped a DeSantis in the 2022 midterms from blue to red. That was a blue county, and now it's red. So the entirety of the state of Florida, statewide, has abandoned the Democratic Party. It is now a red state. Trump might win that by over 10 percentage points this come November. And especially if Texas, we have a border crisis, and Joe Biden did not address the issue of immigration on the debate. He had the opportunity to, and he completely failed that. Believe it or not, I think Nevada could be likely for Trump. He might win that by over 5 percentage points. A state like North Carolina would now be considered likely. Even Georgia would be considered likely. Polls have shown Trump winning it by over consistently 7 percentage points, consistently time and time again. And even very pro-Biden states like Colorado and New Mexico can now be within the lead margin, column of error for Joe Biden instead of likely or safe, because Colorado went for Biden by 13% just 4 years ago. And now it might only go to him by 5 or maybe 6% in this year's election cycle because Trump is winning the popular vote by a staggering 2.3%, which may seem low, but keep in mind that Hillary Clinton won it by 2% and she ended up losing by over 300, guys. I think even the Rust Belt states, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, the most important ones that can ultimately decide the outcome of this election, would all flock over to Donald Trump, and Trump would gain with independent, support or undecided voters because of Joe Biden's disastrous debate performance or whatnot. Trump's going to win Wisconsin by like 3 to 4 percentage points. He's going to win Michigan by a couple percent. He's going to win Pennsylvania by arguably 1 to 2 percentage points, Joe Biden's own home state, and a decisive defeat of the incumbent president. In a historical defeat, Trump can overwhelmingly pass 330 electoral votes if this number is real. 2.3% of the popular vote going to Donald Trump. Republicans have not won the popular vote in such a long time. I think Biden could lose support among college-educated voters, which usually overwhelmingly supports him. And I think Joe Biden could lose a lot of that support. Even a state like Michigan, in those primaries, Biden had 100,000 people in his own party vote against him, on top of Trump receiving more votes than him, who is not even an incumbent. On top of that, had an actual challenger like Nikki Haley, in which Biden, as an incumbent, received less votes than the non-incumbent in that primary. And arguably a blue state, Michigan we're talking about, which is not good news and goes to show you that Biden does not have the enthusiasm as he once did supposedly just 4 years ago. And so as for the tilt Biden states, I think Virginia would probably be the only one in this scenario if Trump were to realistically win the popular vote by over 2 percentage points. Biden would probably win Virginia by like arguably 1 to 2 percentage points, maybe even less than a percentage point. Donald Trump got endorsed here by the governor Glenn Youngkin, who had an amazing victory back in 2021. So that alone could carry Trump, but doesn't mean he'll win his state. I'm not quite sure. I also do think that Maine's at large would become tilt for Biden instead of likely. He won it by 9% back in 2020. I think because independent candidates tend to do well in the state of Maine, they obviously have an independent senator, Angus King. I think that can open up the door for RFK to potentially, do better in this particular district, Maine's at large. But still, I think Biden would hang on to that by probably less than a percentage point. Maybe RFK can win this district. And Trump might win Nebraska second if this popular vote number were to be, accurate by probably a tilt margin. Now, don't get me wrong, Joe Biden is the favorite to win Nebraska second, but considering that this is a very red state, I think Trump could win that district if he wins the popular vote by this, amount, by over 2 percentage points. I also do think states like Arizona would be lean for the former president, considering the border crisis. Voters are not happy with what they're seeing. Recent polling has shown that Trump is surging in the state of Arizona, winning it by literally 6 percentage points. That's more than his 2016 margin. And Biden won this state by 2020, and now it's, seeing a 6-point shift, swing to the right in favor of the former president is not good news for Joe Biden, who is the incumbent. Keep in mind, Biden, the incumbent, is at 14% chance of winning, less of a chance than his own vice president, is actually kind of sad. And I do think in this scenario, if this were to be realistic, Trump wins the popular vote by 2.3%. He's going to flip the state of Minnesota, flip the state of New Hampshire, getting 327 electoral votes, nearly 330, which is greater than his 2016 victory, which in my opinion was his best case. Considering that Biden does not have that BLM momentum that he once had in 2020, George Floyd would happen to that. Obviously, that really pushed those suburbs here in Minneapolis to the left. We don't have COVID. Trump is facing outlash. He had the baggage. Obviously, we had major celebrity endorsements going to Biden. A lot of them won't endorse him this time. Some regret it, and some actually have endorsed Donald Trump. Also, we have more third-party candidates, which, Trump was limited back in 2020 because we didn't really have third-party candidates, and it really helped him in 2016. So I think RFK, Jill Stein, Cornel West all help Donald Trump, and it goes to Trump's benefit, but it's going to severely hurt Joe Biden. And don't get me wrong, even if we did not have these third-party candidates in the race, Trump would still be the favorite regardless. So he'd probably win Minnesota by under a percentage point. Even a state like New Hampshire typically votes at the same direction of the state of Minnesota. They vote together, basically. So whatever one votes, the other would follow. And also considering that New Hampshire is a very anti-incumbent state, they favor the challenger. And in this case, Donald Trump happens to be the challenger. I think that alone could already sway this race in favor of Donald Trump. And even in 2016, Hillary Clinton, when she won the popular vote by 2%, she won New Hampshire by under 1%. Under 1% when she won the popular vote by 2 points. Now, Trump wins the popular vote by 2.3%. Trump's probably going to win New Hampshire if, we're basing that off of that specifically. So there you guys go. Joe Biden's only going to get 211 electoral votes if he loses the popular vote by 2.3% to Donald Trump's nearly 330 electoral votes. This is the map. Let me know what states you agree with or disagree with in the comment section down below and why. And one last final reminder before I close out this video is to subscribe, click the bell so you don't miss out on my content. Also, we have memberships if you are interested. You can find a link to that in the description section. Give this video a thumbs up, press the like button. That's pretty much it. Thank you everyone for watching.